welcome, dear listeners, to another special episode of Legacy of the Ancients. The fight is over. The fight is over. I repeat, down goes Shodan. Down goes Shodan. The evil being is unable to stand the might of a fully restored Hero Alliance. But with the battle over, Conry must return to the live stream. One last goodbye until he sees them again on the other side. But before that, the Hero Alliance celebrates. The world is now safe. And with peace restored, let's take a small trip into the future to see where our heroes end up.
I think Conry, immediately after his time fighting Shodan with you guys, goes back to the live stream and finds it's finally at peace, right? Because when he died, the first thing he saw was all these people going to give up their lives to slow Shodan down. And up until this point, he had been fighting Shodan in the afterlife. And so I think for Conry, when he gets back, he stops and he sort of thinks to himself, okay, it's safe now, but should anything come back, like he realizes how fragile all of that is and how important it is. And he decides to take up the charge of protecting the live stream. That will be his afterlife goal. And he will stay there. He will never cross over into the live stream with everyone else. He will remain there as like a shepherd, like helping people cross over. And so, and a doubly so, he likes to remain because he'll stay there until each one of you guys eventually pass on, and he'll be the first one there that you guys see, sort of sitting there waiting for you when you make it to the afterlife and you're ready to go to the live stream. And whether you go, he'll escort you to it. If you stay and you're not ready, he'll stay with you, but that will be how he spends his time.
I think you'd probably see Otis at 65, 55. I'm pretty sure Shifters died at 65. So as an old man for a Shifter, kind of just doing what his father did in a lot of ways. I think he's just trying to be a good chief. I do think he married Delaney, very much still had a really awkward phase for a while of hey, I know this is arranged, but I really want you to want me. You know what I mean? So I think he said, "Don't kiss me until you really want to marry me. I promise." But I do think Otis never would have let go of his responsibility. So he now knows about this threat on the moon, and I think Otis. I think over his life, he probably visited with everyone that was in the party at different times. He would always label them as pilgrimages, so he'd go on. It was like a tax write-off for his people. He could get away with it, but he would just go visit his buddies. And I think Otis probably has this grand plan of how they could get to the moon and how they could take down this monolith type creature. And then I think probably 5 to 10 years in, Otis realized that he wasn't. He's like, I'm past my prime. I can't do this. So I think Otis has this grand plan that he's talked to a lot of people about, and then he spent the rest of his life trying to raise up at least his people and certain warriors in his people to be the people who are strong enough to go and fight, stronger than he ever was. So I think Otis was big on developing men and women in his culture to. It's hey, if I could grow to the size of a kaiju, then all of y'all can. There's nothing special about me. And I think he just hit hard on how can I develop people. I also think we probably see Otis as people are dying, he keeps telling them to find Conry. So every time someone's about to go into the live stream, he says, find Conry, he'll show you where to go. And probably puts a lot on Conry's plate because all these people are looking for him when they die.
To be fair, you do it so often, it probably becomes just a cultural norm now among Shifters. There is a prayer to Conry at every wake.
Come on. Yeah, I think Otis is just desperately trying to be as good of a leader as his father. He doesn't have any huge aspirations outside of he does want to build up. Like he's aware of this other threat, and he wants to see if he can build up a generation of shifters at least to combat that threat. So he definitely doesn't ever get passive in his leadership or his his development of others. And he's got speaking stones to all the boys, and he's just chatting with them all the time. So what do you think about this? And he's really awkward with it, but he's at least very active.
Group chat, always active. Well, he may not ever get passive in his old age, but there does come a day, in his later 50s, where he wakes up and looks over the people that he's been leading for decades now. And he does feel a sense of pride, because he has helped shape them. An entire new generation of warriors at least as powerful as he ever was. Going on adventures, fighting kaiju, defending the lands. And while you don't get passive, you probably feel a sense of contentment. As that day you realize you did what you wanted to do, with the help of your people and the help of your friends. I imagine after the reformation of Lucia, with dragons not being such a problem anymore, a good number of dragoons were sent to the Shifter Woods to help with the encroaching kaiju problem. After all, fighting dragons and fighting kaiju, not that different. And your people help and learn from each other. And you realize that you can relax at least a little bit and enjoy the years you have left with Delaney and the children you've made, your own heirs.
Yeah, I think he leaves a bit of a bit of chaos in there. I think somewhere in his will is something about fighting over who gets to be chief. So he's trying to raise all of them to, it's like, okay, who can beat who? A little bit unhealthy, but a little bit of fun. So yeah, and I think that the banter never stops. I think as fellow like kings or chiefs or leaders of people, they'll definitely reach out to Reginald and always make fun of him a little bit. In a very like brother-like manner of, hey, we both get to. You're sending these like crazy strong warriors to train my people up, and I think he'll definitely tell legends of Bolt and of Felix and of Connery and Cerebrin of like, hey, there's these crazy strong people out there, and you can't even imagine what they could do. And I imagine he has this like old grandpa story where he stole a lot of computers from Lucia, and every time he tells the story of them beating Shodan, he like squishes a computer, and he was like, "That's all it was. It was just a box of wires."
It's all of our onboarding equipment.
Yeah, he's definitely got some props for his.
Do you know how much RAM costs?
He does it all. It's like, I don't know. This must be cheap. It's definitely not a couple thousand.
I think in the immediate aftermath, it's like, okay, we need to rebuild. So I think he spends his first couple of years just rebuilding the city and making it a refuge for literally anyone who wanted to come afterward. Like, he didn't want Lucia to be known anymore as a militaristic stronghold. Like, he wanted to be like a home for people. And so, I mean, he still, I think, very much cared about military and training and like making sure that they were ready for any threat that would arise again, but he didn't want his kingdom to be known for that anymore. So I think with him sending a majority of his dragoons to Otis's people, that I think he would focus on like healing. Like, if you are sick, if you're broken, if you have a disease or whatever, you go to Lucia to like seek help, and people would always know that they would be welcomed with open arms. I think part of that too, he would designate those woods as like untouchable for the shifter lands, so that they actually have a home forever, like under his authority. Like these lands, like a national park, it's like this is always will be the shifter lands, whether or not they choose to stay here or anything like that, they know they have a home in these woods. And I think about 25 years later, like I think the city is rebuilt. Y'all thought Reginald was old, but now he's like 67.
Old. And yeah, I'll say like the cleanup of the city alone took months. But once the refugees all came back, literally everybody participated. It would have taken years otherwise. And then the rebuilding was slow, but district by district. After a few years, Lucia was returned to its former glory, and maybe a decade later, the palace completely rebuilt. Although Apollo's crystal is now gone, as is the dome that once protected the city.
And I think like you can even see like the walls he would have signed. Like, hey, if there are any dwarves, like we know you work with stones, so like the dwarves would work with the walls and the elves would work with like the architecture and things like that. He would just put people where they needed to be to like add their specific touch to Lucia. And I think
one thing the dwarves would have done is an old tradition of their own. After the battle, the bodies of the fallen, the soldiers who fought in that war, they would have been cremated, and their cremains turned into bricks.
very cool.
So many of the new foundations of the city are quite literally built from the dead who defended it.
That's rad. I think at this point, like he's 67, he's stepping down from the throne so that his son can take his place as king, but him still have years left to like train him how to be a king. He always thought it was silly, like, why do I have to die before they can become king? Like, I really should have my last couple of years to pass this off. And so like as he realizes that he's getting older, he's going to pass the kingship off to his son, Henry August Shaw.
Love it.
Reginald invents the handover onboarding process.
I'm sorry, you just have to do paperwork. All of our computers somehow went missing. I think after that, he treats the castle and the kingdom as like a job that he goes to from like 9 to 5, but he stays with Lily in like his mother's house. They still tend to the garden and cook meals together and sleep in the same tiny bed. But I think he lives out the last remainder of his life with Lily in that home.
He does. In his twilight years, he lets young Conry take over the throne, guiding him and advising him in the capacity that he can as his son becomes a strong leader and king, thanks to his guidance. And then one day, old age gets to you, as it does all of us. Eventually, Reginald dies quietly and peacefully in a bed in his mother's home, surrounded by Lily and his son the king and all of his friends. And when he passes over, his oldest friend is there.
Sorry, I heard this is the way to the live stream. Can you direct me to...
Why are you still old? And he'll snap his fingers and you turn again. It's a mindset, Reginald.
Oh, and I feel old. It's truly...
You can be anything up here and you chose to be old. And he'll like put his arm around you and start walking with you off into the distance and say, you know, I've had the chance to see a lot of Lucians over the years come through here, and you did an amazing job as King Reginald. You did right by your people. Let's go find your mom and your dad. They've been waiting a long time for you.
Well, I mean, I don't think they're gonna miss a little bit longer. Looks like you have plenty of room up here for someone to wait with you if if you're into that kind of thing. I could leave if you just want the alone time.
No, I would love to. Would you want to spar? One time we did that, and you almost died. But we can't die up here as easily, so we can do it again if you want.
I don't know if you know this, but I was using my strength instead of my dexterity to use my weapon, so I think I've got a decent chance now.
That explains a lot. I was using the flat of my sword and not the blade, so that also affected me.
Oh yeah, well I took a level of rogue. Sneak attack!
You don't know this, but I took 2 levels of barbarian for Otis, and he just shrugs off your sneak attack and just starts.
One of your shadows is just Otis.
Well, actually, I'm wearing body armor that emits a force field, so your attack doesn't hit.
Is nullified because I'm actually level blah blah blah, and I think they'll joke like that for a long time in between horsing around and killing time. Yeah, until the fellas start showing up.
Until the boys are back in town, you might say.
The boys are back in town. I'm going to kick it off with Cerebrin. Cerebrin, I think, is heavily involved in everything going on with Lucia and you guys, and is very much a part of it, and agrees with Otis about the potential dangers, right, of what else is out there, and really, really goes deep into his studying. And there are these prolonged periods where he'll like show up and then like leave and study, and then like a long time passes and he comes back, and he disappears and he comes back. And with each like growing absence, you guys see him kind of get a little more withdrawn, a little more sort of like disconnected, right? Still the same guy, like talking to you guys, still happy to talk to you guys, but almost like he's losing himself to his studies. And I think once Lucia is repaired and Otis is chief and Reginald has an heir and all of these things sort of settle in place, he'll like the last time you guys see him, he'll sort of shake your hand, and each one of you, and you'll see as he like pats you on the hand, like his left hand has like atrophied severely, and that's it. He just tells you, there's just something I've been looking into, and I think I'm about to make a breakthrough. And that's it. That's the last you guys see of Cerebrin. He just fades into the void.
He never makes it into the live stream either.
Not this boy. Does not show up. And all the time that passes, I think that as people show up one by one, that's something that you guys notice. And Connery would probably after having been up there for so long, would say to you guys too, like, he's not coming ever, I don't think. And then, yeah, Cerebrin goes off into Cerebrin world.
Well, with Felix, his epilogue will begin almost at the moment when Reginald was anointed as king. And as Felix sends those fairy fire bombs off to make it magical, as he told them to do, he'll look in his jacket, he goes to close it, and see a folded picture. One that's been there since he put the jacket on, he hasn't looked at in quite a long time, and he'll pull it out finally in kind of this moment of himself, or by himself, and open it, and it's a picture of him and his old friend Pearsonald the day before they both went to the Linworth Academy. And as far as Felix can remember, this is almost the last happy time he had with Pearsonal before everything changed. And as he sits there in his own reverence, he'll say to himself, to the picture, okay, Pierce, I'll end it. I'll handle it. Not tonight. Tonight I'll have to forget you one more time, but I'll keep the promise. And he'll fold the picture up and put it back in his jacket, and he'll have another drink or two, and then as the night wanes on, he'll go about his way. He'll hop on his hoverboard and ride off into the sunset as you will. And as the years go by, you won't really hear from him. There'll always be times a letter will show up, or a small mechanical device will end up in your room, and when you touch it, the tinkering effect will work, and it'll just be, hey, checking in, just I'm good, everything's fine, I miss you. Once hears lines, something along those lines that lets you know he's alive, but you never actually hear from him, you never actually see him. And roughly 8 years will go by, as the time passes, and Felix will find himself walking down a long path towards an old stone manor, reminiscing about his time with the Heroes Alliance. He can feel his ring dangling from the chain around his neck. He hasn't worn it since Shodan was destroyed, since peace was brought. But as he's doing this, his mind turns to darker memories. His father, the blood hunters that betrayed him and murdered Pearsonald, then hunted him across the continents. The men that were responsible for the agency and everything that happened. As he reaches the manor, he will push open large slab doors and enter as if he owns the place. In the silence, you can hear his boots clicking against the ground, the gun with no name slapping against his thigh, and the rustle of his leather jacket as he pulls out his old journal, again many years later. Felix starts to ascend an ornate staircase with his eyes fixed on a single passage that he's scrawled quickly in the journal. It says, "The last one, the last traitor." And as he ascends the stairs and turns left to another set of large oaken doors, these ones are somewhat ajar, and being in this kind of place, it would seem unexpected, but Felix, he expects it to be exactly as it is. And as he pushes the doors open, he steps in, and he'll see a cloaked figure working feverishly on a strange tablet inlaid against the wall, arcane scratchings and symbols painted across it on almost every inch as it glows a blue-greenish color. And for a moment, Felix pauses, spellbound in awe of the weave-infused sculpture taking place in front of him. He's a smart man, so he regains his senses, and he clears his throat. So imagine my surprise when at the end of this long, fraught journey, I find it had been you. You that have been pulling the strings of my life this whole time. But I'll give it to you. Your machinations, your plans, ingenious. They were ingenious. The way you moved all the pieces just so, in a perfect choreographed way, so nothing really ever led back to you. And as he says this, the cloaked figure lets out a squeak laugh and just... Oh, it wasn't so impressive. At least not for men of our caliber, Brother Felix. But you've always known to some degree. Your year of exile led you to this, I'm sure. Strange, though. I was certain you would have killed your father when you discovered everything. But I suppose little wrinkles are another reason you're here now. And Felix will unclip his holster and palm his revolver, and as he does, a brand of blood magic takes shape on the back of his hand. He's got a death grip on the handle. He says, "Regardless of the wrinkles, this hunt ends tonight. For good. You weren't smart enough to stay hidden from me forever."
Oh, Felix. Oh, poor, sweet, old Felix. You said all those years ago, don't you remember? You're the smart one. But me, I'm the vindictive one. And you see the figure pull its hood back, and there is a withered, desiccated Cerebrin holding the book with the tongue stapled to the front, hand completely atrophied, eye glowing green. And as he raises his arms up and faces Felix, you see countless undead pop up. The blood hunters, people Felix has come in contact over all of these years, all of these people that have passed away in his lifetime stand facing Felix. And he sort of gives them a curt bow. "Shall we, Felix?"
Felix draws. Fades to black.
I'm gonna want more explanation than that.
Fuck yeah.
Bolt always struggled with what it meant to be a hero. And he had an opportunity to save his friends by sacrificing himself to Jormungandr, the world serpent, at one point. And what had actually happened was Jormungandr showed him the future, or possible futures, and showed him pasts, whether those were real pasts or potential pasts in the timeline. Bolt was never sure. But when he was reborn into a sort of a new timeline and came back. He had at that point seen all of these possibilities, and finally getting to defeat Shodan and do it with his friends in a way that didn't require him to compromise on what he thought being a hero was. He was able to put all that behind him. And with the knowledge of all the possible futures that he had seen, as time went on, he was able to narrow that down more and more and more into what could possibly, ultimately be the future. So he spent, immediately after the events of Shodan, spent the next couple of years while he was at the peak of his power just being a fucking superhero, going to where he was needed the most and just trying to be an inspiring figure for people. But then when he realized that the most good he could do now wasn't being, a one-person hero and fighting evil, it was just to be a sign, a symbol for people, just like the Hero Alliance really was. So he would have spent the next couple years trying to build up the Hero Alliance more formally, inviting people he thought were worthy to join the team and get called out in times when heroes were really needed again. He finally retired into Lucia to live out his final bit of time with Reginald and his family and the people that he had come to love and protect over all of these years. Of everyone on the team, Bolt had a pretty simple and uncomplicated future. He knew who he was at this point, and he liked who he was, and he liked being able to make the difference that he could. And so he retired into a boring but very fulfilling future for himself and Lucia before eventually passing away of old age. And when he finally has the opportunity to see Connery one more time, he would say to him, I saw this coming, right? You know that.
I mean, I figured you might have, out of anyone, with your experience.
It's a pretty good ending to all of this, don't you think?
Yeah, I am pretty happy with the way things turned out. And, Bolt, I didn't have a chance to tell you this before, I died, which if you saw it coming, any sort of heads up would have been appreciated moments before. But I, for the longest time, struggled with what it meant to do the right thing or be a good person, and I used you as my role model, and I want to thank you for all your guidance and all the people you guided along the way. Thank you, Bolt.
Hey, it wasn't just me, it was all of us, and it's an expression I've come to use a lot over the last couple of years, but it's just what heroes do. And he's going to be, I think, probably the final person to meet Connery on the live stream as they are able to finally enter the live stream together, having fulfilled their purpose. And the final thing he explains to Connery that he saw from Jürgenmunder is that the gods over the next several generations will rebuild and will re-establish themselves in the shape of what the people need them to be. And that brings them great comfort.
I like to think that one of the last things Bolt did, you named the baby god Jormungandr. After the world serpent that showed you the past, present, and possible futures and shaped you into the hero you became.
Exactly.
And the last thing you do is release Jormungandr. Now grown. Very quickly, it had developed the ability to simply not be perceived by others, except for you. but it's grown now. You've taught it what you know. It is intelligent and powerful. Adolescent though it may be, it will be a good god of the land. And with that last thing you had to do, you are content when you pass.
It was a good life.
You cross over, you meet Conry, and he ferries you over to the other side, as he has with all the others, where you can meet them and be young together once more. And that brings us back to Conry. Conry, you've stayed behind, protected this place, acted as a guide, and ferried all of your friends and loved ones over. Bolt was the last one. You help him pass over, and the door closes, and you turn around. And after a while you realize, for as long as you've been here, standing guard, your duty is over. And as you realize this, you hear a voice behind you, one you haven't heard in a very, very long time.
I turn to look to see who it is.
That's the last of them then, isn't it?
Yeah, that's them. Each one.
Then I think your job is done, number 10.
Yeah, I think it is. Just, I don't know. It feels sort of weird to say goodbye, doesn't it?
It does. But no goodbye is forever. If I can learn that, so can you.
Who would have thought, huh? And he'll turn around, and at that point where he has stood for the longest time, he will take out his sword and sort of drive it in place, and then hang his scarf around it as like a little monument to everything that the Hero Alliance has done up until this point, and all the fighting. And as he leaves the sword there, he turns towards Reeves, and sort of one by one, for the first time since this has started, he just starts taking off his armor, these weapons, this armor that he's carried with him since he ran away. And for the first time, he's just Conry in, regular, non-fighting clothes, just able to be himself. And he walks up and pats Reeves on the back and goes, "Well, we should get going. I don't want to keep you from your family, and I'd like to see mine as well."
Actually, I was wondering if you'd want to meet mine. It's Christmas time.
I would love to. I don't think I've ever actually celebrated Christmas. This would be nice.
You're going to like it.
Have you told your family how much you hated me? There's a lot of history between us. Do they understand it?
They have heard all the stories over these years, I assure you. The little one is looking forward to hearing them from Uncle Conry's perspective.
Yeah, that'll be nice. Let's go. And he'll walk step in step with Reeves to go see his family.
And you pass through the door, and the credits roll.
This was Dumpstat, a D&D podcast hosted by our DM, Mike, with players Derek, Jordan, Matt, Todd, and me, Jeff. Be sure to follow us on social media, and if you like the music and sound effects used, check out the episode description for all the info you need.